It's a double dose of injury news, Broncos Country. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, and we're going to talk about these injuries. Some bad news being to Pat Bryant, the good news being Ben Powers, and then we're going to round out today's show talking about Sam Ehlinger and how he denied the Indianapolis Colts of his presence on their 53-man roster because he wanted to stay at Mile High. Let's get the bad news out of the way first. We'll talk Pat Bryant first. All the injury updates surrounding Pat Bryant. He did miss practice now for the second straight day. It is doubtful that he's going to play against Green Bay. He's got a bit of a hamstring injury right now. I don't think this is the worst possible scenario for Pat Bryant. I do think that he has had such a great and expanded role the last couple of games. I just feel like it might be beneficial for Denver to just kind of sideline him right now until he's fully healthy. Now, we're going to break down in more detail what this is about Pat Bryant. But if you still think the Denver Broncos can get the W, which obviously they can, do me a favor, get that thumbs up icon hit immediately. It just lets me know that you support the Denver Broncos and that we can expand that winning streak to 11 games in a row. More on Pat Bryant. Bryant's absence from Heavy on Broncos here stood out for the Broncos at the start of the week. While it is still early in the process, there is significant doubt that Bryant will suit up for the Broncos against the Packers. His production has surged in recent weeks, and he has seemingly toppled the 2024 fourth-round selection Troy Franklin as the team's second perimeter option opposite wide receiver 1, Courtland Sutton. And well, I think that might be a bit of a stretch right now because I think there is definitely a battle for wide receiver 2 between Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant. You cannot deny that the last 7 games, Pat Bryant has been exceptional. 36 targets, 22 receptions, a touchdown, and averaging basically 14 yards a catch. This is the intermediate passing game wizard right here for the Broncos. In fact, as this guy continues to develop in this offense led by Sean Payton and Bo Nix, you will see more and more of that Michael Thomas comparison that Sean Payton gave him when they drafted him. So there's no doubt whatsoever, and that's a great little graphic there, Reed, that when Michael Thomas was drafted, he was already the number 1 in New Orleans. He was drafted to be their number 1, which is why his numbers look significantly better than Pat Bryant's. However, Pat Bryant, as we know now, is clearly not the number 1, right? Courtland Sutton's your 1. Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin have a role in this offense. Pat Bryant's like your 3 or your 4, and only recently has kind of come into his own as the number 2. So Pat Bryant can be more like Michael Thomas. You just got to give him some time. So I think sidelining him for this Green Bay Packers game is probably the smartest thing because we are going to need him for that intermediate passing game as we get into the playoffs. So sidelining him is not a bad thing. Just let him get healthy, see what the other guys can do, and just kind of ride off into week 16 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hopefully he comes back and finds his role once again. This does, of course, mean to me at least that Marvin Mims is in for a breakout game. And Marvin Mims has really turned it on as of late, which is a great thing. I feel like he's kind of had I don't want to say quiet, it's just been kind of up and down for him this year. Like there's been moments where you're like, where's Marvin Mims? And then there's games where you're like, there's Marvin Mims, like against the Raiders. He played outstanding. But 25 receptions, 247 yards, 1 touchdown through the air, 1 punt return touchdown that he had last week against the Raiders. But here's the most important thing. For all-purpose yards, he's got 946 of them. This guy is the ultimate gadget player. I think his role as a special teamer and as a wide receiver is unmatched on the Broncos, and there's a reason that ESPN went out and said he is the best gadget guy in the league. So you might see a ton of players, by the way, not come back for the regular season if the Broncos keep winning. So if the Broncos beat the Green Bay Packers and Pat Bryant's still not ready to go against the Jags and they beat the Jaguars, well, maybe you just sideline him because you've already gotten your playoff seed. You've already gotten into the playoffs. If you've pretty much wrapped up that number 1 seed by week 18, maybe you just sideline him. Maybe you just say, hey, we're going to bring you back when the playoffs start. And speaking of coming back, guess who's back? back again. Not to sound like Slim Shady, but Ben Powers. Little good news update for you on him. Before I tell you about Ben Powers, got to tell you about my friends over at Harry's. I am the hairiest guy in the Chat Sports office. There's no doubt about that. I just shaved my back 2 days ago. It's already got stubble growing back, which is crazy to think about. But I trust Harry's with my personal grooming habits. Seriously, on my counter, in my bathroom, all hairy stuff. And if your old razor dulled way too quickly, if it irritated your neck, and if it costs way too much, $30 for 8 refills, total scam. That's where Harry's Plus has you covered. They have an advanced pivoting system to reach every corner of your face with refined blade tech for a closer, smoother shave and a weighted metal handle for added control and comfort. With Harry's Plus, you get a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. Why would you pay $30, like I said, for a refill when Harry's gives you better blades for a fraction of the cost? Harry's has launched their most advanced razor ever, and it is still cheaper than the Gillette Fusion 5. For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com with code CHAT. This includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head on over to harrys.com/chat to claim this offer, and after you purchase, they're going to say, hey, where'd you hear about us? Please support our show and let them know that Broncos Breakdown host Trace Moustakas sent you. So Ben Powers is designated to return from IR after missing, I think now 5 or 6 games, somewhere around that area. This is definitely good news because now you get that full continuity back on the offensive line. And this offensive line, by the way, that is completely set until the end of the 2026 season. But the Denver Broncos tweeted this out saying, we've designated guard Ben Powers to return from IR. All great things. It's important to have Ben Powers back on the field. Not to say that, Palczewski wasn't playing well enough or Calvin Throckmorton wasn't playing well enough because they definitely held their own. But Ben Powers was having one of his best years as a Denver Bronco. I mean, the numbers completely back that up as well. Like Ben Powers, I believe at the time, had only allowed 1 sack. Maybe it was less than that. But like I said, the offensive line depth chart now with Powers back in is sensational. Bowles, Powers, Wattenberg, Miners, McGlinchey. You're going to need these 5 and lean upon them heavily, especially in the colder weather, once you get into the playoffs. And you're also going to be playing some really good defensive lines. Patriots have a really good defensive line. Who else has a really good defensive line right now in the AFC? Pittsburgh's got a pretty decent one as well if they make it. I know that the Chargers have a pretty decent one. So there's a lot of different teams that have some really good defensive lines. But the Broncos having one of the best offensive lines in the league can definitely negate any sort of, powerful defensive front. Either way, back to Powers. Started 5 games, 0 sacks allowed, as I was saying, and this was right before he got injured. 67.4 run blocking grade and a pass blocking grade. Hut, set hike, set take 2. A pass blocking grade. Jeez Louise, Moose, of 68.7. It's been a day for me, guys. I hope you give me a little bit of grace today. I'm really impressed with the way the Denver Broncos offensive line has held up this year. It's been one of the best in the entire NFL, and this just fires me up. It's gets my blood boiling. It's all pumping it up. I love it. I'm so excited to watch the Green Bay Packers take on the Denver Broncos, and hopefully the Denver Broncos can finish at 15-2, or 15-2 now that there are 17 games played. So do me a favor real quick. Welcome Ben back to the starting lineup. Type your 74s in the comment section. Like I said, I'm really excited. Can't wait to see what it looks like. We can probably give him a game of grace as well. It might not be perfect. You know what I mean? Like the next game back, especially in the cold against the Packers, who've got a great defensive line. It might not be the most smooth transition, but I think one game back, Ben will be just fine. Okay, let's talk about the last part of our episode today. Sam Ehlinger denying Indianapolis a spot on their 53-man roster. So apparently from Parker Gabriel, the Colts called Sam Ehlinger, and they talked to his agent, and they basically were like, hey, with Daniel Jones' injury, with his torn Achilles, we have no idea when he's going to be back. Would Sam like to be on the 53-man roster, which means a bigger paycheck? It means an opportunity to get into the game, ostensibly. And Sam said no, straight up. In fact, Parker Gabriel kind of talked about what was, the whole backstory behind this. And then Sam said himself, we're really happy here. So here's what Parker said specifically. Sam Ehlinger had a chance to join the Colts active roster. He decided to remain on the Broncos practice squad. And then Sam said, we're really happy to be here. I'm assuming he's talking about his wife and his family. And enjoy the organization, the path that we're on, and what we're building. I want to be a part of that. This just goes to show me the locker room is the most united in the entire NFL. These guys literally are brothers. They have each other's backs. They're constantly hyping each other up. This is one of the most cohesive starting and 53-man rosters in the entire NFL. You cannot convince me otherwise. I think it absolutely is a testament to what George Payton does, to what Sean Payton does, and to the leaders in this locker room as well. They do an amazing job of making sure that everybody that comes to Mile High loves this city and loves this team. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to hit that subscribe button, like today's video, and as always, Broncos Country, Mile High salute, be cool.